Today we're doing section 4.2, day 3, and we're talking again about using the properties that we learned yesterday. So for this example, you're given two trig functions. You're given sine and you're given cosine, and the directions say to find the remaining. So based on the fact that I know sine and cosine, I definitely can find tangent, and to do that, I would take my sine value. So tangent is sine over cosine. So my sine value that's given is 2 over 5 divided by my cosine value. I'm going to keep change flip. The 5's are going to cancel out, and I'm left with 2 over root 21, but I have to rationalize. So my final answer will be 2 root 21 over 21. So that is my tangent value. Then, to find the remaining 3, I just have to flip the values because that's just the reciprocal. So if sine is 2 over 5, that means cosecant is 5 over 2. If cosine is root 21 over 5, that means secant is 5 over root 21, which will become 5 root 21 over 21. And like I said, you could skip right to writing the final answer if you can rationalize in your head. And then for cotangent, I'm going to take the reciprocal of tangent. Now, as far as strategy goes, if I take the reciprocal of my final answer, I'm going to have a square root in the denominator. I'm going to have to rationalize again. So if I go back a step to this answer prior to me rationalizing, that's the one that I want to flip, and then that way I won't have to rationalize again. So pretty easy. You just use the identities to figure out the remaining functions. So the next one, again, same idea. You're given that sine is equal to 1 and cosine is equal to 0, and they want you to find the remaining. So I have sine equal to 1, cosine equal to 0. Forgot to write that. So cosecant will be 1 because 1 over 1 is still 1. Cosine, however, when I flip this over, this is like a 0 over 1. So when I flip it, I get 1 over 0, which is undefined. So secant will be undefined. Tangent is a quotient identity, so I take sine divided by cosine, which will be 1 over 0, which is undefined. But when I take the reciprocal for cotangent, I get 0 over 1, which is 0. So I do expect you to tell me if the answer is undefined versus 0. You cannot just leave it as 1 over 0, 0 over 1. You have to show me that you know the difference between those two. So 3 more identities coming at you. Again, you do have to memorize these, and these are the Pythagorean identities. So one of them says sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. The next one is 1 plus tangent squared equals secant squared. And the last one is 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. So mostly everybody remembers this one automatically. My tip for the bottom one is that the c's stay together. So all 6 trig functions are used, and they're only used one time. So cosine's already used in the first one. The other c's stay together. And then the other 2 remaining trig functions will be tangent and secant. And tangent and cotangent are the reciprocals of one another, so that's why they're kind of in the same place. So that may or may not work for you. That's just my little hint. So for the last example, notice they've now scaled back and you're only given 1 trig function. So now you're forced to use the Pythagorean identities because you only have 1 trig function. I obviously could do the reciprocal and find cosecant, but then I would kind of be stuck as far as the reciprocal and quotient identities. I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. So because you're given sine, you're going to use the sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So my sine value is 3 over 5 squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So when you square a fraction, you square the top and bottom. So I have 9 over 25 plus cosine squared. I'm going to change that 1 to be 25 over 25. Okay, so you know that's 1 over 1, 25 over 25. So I have the common denominators that I need. You're going to subtract this over. So now I have cosine squared equals 16 over 25. We're going to take the square root, and cosine is going to be equal to 4 over 5. So let's get this going. So we know sine is 3 over 5. We know cosecant is 5 over 3. I now know cosine is 4 over 5, which means secant is 5 over 4. So lastly, we got to do is tangent, and we're going to use the quotient identity. So I have 3 over 5 all divided by 4 over 5. We keep change flip. And you can probably already see what's going to happen here. The 5s are going to cancel. And tangent is going to be equal to 3 over 4. Which means cotangent is equal to 4 over 3. So I hope you don't think it's too bad. It's just a lot of using the identities to work your way around and figure out all 6.